We know that our national debt is, 3 trillion rands, and it will be 4.5 trillion by 2020. We got the youth unemployment figures of 58% sometime last year. Economic growth last week, I beg your pardon, economic growth 0.5 for 2019. I mean, what is the case for optimism in this part of the world?
I think optimism is important. If you're a pessimist, then you can just lie down and die. And, I'm not that kind of person. I'm a glass half full person. And I think that what we perhaps didn't factor in when we had Ramaphosa was the kind of devastation that took place. Now, I want to give you a few numbers. The GDP cost of, and I'll use a generic term, the Zupta era, to South Africa. So if we grew by what we were growing at pre the crisis, which was 4-point-something%, we would have had an extra 1.3 trillion rand of GDP today. And when Tito would have been talking about his medium-term budget, we will be looking at rating upgrades. You would have had debt to GDP at 30%. You would have unemployment probably at 16%. So to me, you asked the question, why are we still stuck? Well, I know at Investec, if we had a division that went haywire or went on the wrong road, you don't fix it in a year. Mm-hmm. It takes a while to get it back on track after taking some very tough decisions. Now, the uncle needs to take a few tough decisions. He's held back by his party, and in particular, the left of his party. And unless he takes tough decisions, and the first thing, I've been saying now for months, number one, you fix Eskom. Okay, now it took them a long time to come up with their plan. The plan is there, now execute it. And you have to bring private capital in. You can't put that whole burden on the government balance sheet. We can't afford it. Now, they hate the word privatization. Use any word. Don't call it privatization. Call it public-private partnerships. Call it anything. But just do it.
How do you maneuver as a business leader in a climate like that, where there are all sorts of blockages? What has been your experience?
First of all, I think there are companies like Investec that do care about their society. There's an awful lot of companies in South Africa that don't care about the society, and they just say, well, that's the government's job. Yeah. It's not our job. So, and I think the second thing is it does take, to transform a country in 50 months is an impossibility. I think the most important thing that you have about this new government is a leader who's honest. And if you don't have a leader who's honest, it just ricochets all the way down through society, the police force, the customs officers, everybody become dishonest. And so he's had to move this big ship around and into a different direction. It's tough, but I wish him well, and feel a lot more confident investing in South Africa with him at the helm than the previous group.
You said earlier that our president is being frustrated, I suppose, or delayed by his party. I know that, but I also think, how much longer then can the rest of us wait as they sort out their own politics while our economy gets to its knees?
Welcome to Britain, America, Italy, Portugal. I mean, that's why, honestly, that's why business people have got to step in.
You can't walk around being miserable and complaining. And you also have to be proactive in society. I heard Richard talk about, put a circle around the environment you operate in and help uplift people. And through that intervention, you start to get growth. Obviously, we need an enabling environment, and we need a government that is business friendly.
What do you say to people in this room to encourage economic growth despite the politics that we can't fix immediately now?
So it needs a difference in attitude from business to say, this is our country, we can make a difference. We can help this country grow. 18 months ago, if you said South Africa would win the World Cup, people would have laughed at you. They changed the leadership. They had a very competitive team across the spectrum. It was well represented by, people from different backgrounds. And because we were a team, because we worked together as a team, we won the World Cup against the odds. So we as a society need to work together as a team. We can't moan about this and about that. Just get going.
I mean, I think we need to think, what is a government? A government is a group of people, generally, who they're only likely to be in that job for a year or two. And so they need help. Now, business people can be around for a long time, hopefully very long time. And they are also, a lot of them are quite entrepreneurially minded. So I think, it's not just helping in the community that's important for business people, and that's very important. But the other thing is to help governments. So, climate change, take as an example. I mean, we sat down with a small group of entrepreneurs, and we just brainstormed, if we were in government, what would we do to whip climate change which won't bankrupt our country? Every business has a carbon footprint. Now, taxing businesses for its carbon footprint have not worked. The Australian government fell when they tried to bring a big tax in on carbon. In France, there were massive riots in the street and so on. So, how can we resolve this problem without taxing carbon? Anyway, our idea is quite simple, and that is that we work out our carbon footprint, and governments say that based on your carbon footprint, a percentage of your turnover or your profits, and we're refining it at the moment, must be invested in clean energy. Now, we're not taking your money, I mean, this is the government speaking, we're not taking your money and losing it in the government coffers. You're able to invest this in solar, in wind, in Memphis meats, which is a new alternative to eating beef, etc., beyond meat, planting forests. But you can also make profits from it, and you can get dividends from it. And if every company in Britain did it, you would have billions and billions and billions going into clean energy, would speed up the whole process really fast. And it seems to be a win-win for everybody, because from the public's point of view, if you've got more clean energy than dirty energy, the prices are going to come down, and they'll stay down forever. I mean, that's the lovely thing about the sun and the wind. The governments benefit because they're actually whipping climate change, and they're not taxing people heavily. And companies benefit because they can actually get their money back. Anyway, that's our entrepreneurial idea that we're trying to push through.
What are your concerns about our youth at the moment? How, given all the problems that we've all been talking about, how we can still invest in young people?
Well, if we don't do that, we're going to fail as a society. I mean, the first challenge is the schooling system. So if you, an everyday human being, not everyone's Richard, and not everyone's very entrepreneurial, then you need to up your education. So we need to fix that. We need to actually change the education system. Someone suggested that we should just give everyone a grant and let the private sector run with the ball. And it's more than 20 grand a pop that the government spend on education doing a bad job. Yeah. And some of these private schools can do quite a good job for 20 grand. And you'll create a whole business and employ a whole lot of good teachers. Those are things that we have to fix. And then, if we can get for the youth, what we're trying to do on YES is get the jobs inside the environment, inside the villages, inside the townships, so that they don't have to spend 40% of their salary traveling to the centre.
Far away from work.
And try and create an ecosystem in the environment.
We've stopped asking people who are coming for a job at Virgin Group for their exam results. We don't want to know their school exam results. We don't want to know their university exam results. We'll do in-depth interview. They'll send a video in. We'll find out about their life skills, et cetera. But my feeling is that there are people who are good at learning facts at school, and there are people who are not. The people who are really good at learning facts, maybe 10%, and the other 90% are not necessarily good at learning facts. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the better employee. And I mean, our feeling at Virgin Group is that if every company stopped asking people for exam results, then schools would have to reinvent themselves. They would have to turn people into human beings and look for all the other areas.